This person, he is a geopolitical analyst at the Budapest-based Center for Fundamental Rights. His name is Koskovics Zoltan. And he says the following. This is a video that purports to show the ICBM attack on the Dnipro. It may show the impact of a ballistic missile carrying a multiple independently targetable re-entry vehicle, non-nuclear payload. The launch of this weapon will have triggered early warning systems worldwide because such a launch is immediately assumed to be nuclear. If the missile was launched from Astrakhan, it was done so at a very high trajectory. Even if it is just intermediate range, it would have been clear that the target was Ukraine within seconds. It would have been assumed to be nuclear until the moment of impact. It is highly unusual for this type of expensive and complex weapon to carry a conventional payload. Why did Russia do this? Psychological warfare. In the minutes between the launch was detected and the warhead started detonating, a lot of people in Ukraine and the West will have been delivered a huge emotional shock. To test Biden's response to a single missile nuclear strike on Ukraine, there was no response. Even with a conventional payload, this was the most powerful strike since the war began. The target, potentially an important defense plant, Yuzmash, will have suffered immense damage. Take a look at the video. It looks like from an artificial, like it looks like from an, wow, seriously, like it looks like a scene from a movie, like it's from something from the future, you know? I think it's very scary, and also what's also scary that there was a camera set up here, which means that the Russians had intelligence asset here to install a camera or something here to detect this. I don't know, maybe it's another webcam or camera is there. However, this type of attacks are seriously, look, they're really frightening. Like, this is terrifying. So this type of weapons could carry nuclear. Right. So what do we know so far about this? We know that this was for deterrence reasons. This was of psychological warfare from the Russians against the NATO side. And so there is now some debate if the Russians told the Americans about their intentions and what type of weapons they were going to use. And if they told them anything at all, we don't know for sure. The Americans say that they were informed. In any case, using this type of missiles from the Russian side should have enabled and enacted the early nuclear alarm systems of NATO in Eastern Europe, and they didn't react. So the NATO side, they knew that Russians have launched a nuclear-capable missile, but they didn't know if it was loaded with nuclear or not. And they only knew what happened. Like they only learned if this was a nuclear or not after the impact happened, right, in Ukraine. So I think that nobody should be wishing for this situation to escalate any further. And this is something that I'm sometimes in Arabic we say that a hair has grown on my tongue, you know, like for speaking and repeating myself. Yeah, I would repeat myself again, guys. This is not a game. So if you're thinking that this is some sort of an excitement or some sort of a game, it's not. Now, some say that Russia has given prior notice to the Americans, but they didn't say if this weapon was loaded with nuclear or not. However, there are many things. For example, some of the reports say that the United States told the Americans only 30 minutes before they launched the strike, and they didn't say or specify any details about the attack, so they didn't know. And however, when the strike happened, this was because of the type of the strike and the weapon used. This was enough to give the impression to the NATO side and to enact the nuclear safety protocol and to at least to take precautions against it. And I think in this case, the Americans didn't know if this was a nuclear or not. They just waited to see the result of the attack and then to evaluate if it was or not. So When the attack happened, this type of missiles, it takes 2 or 3 minutes maximum to fly into Ukraine. It's like a supersonic or hypersonic missile. So in a few minutes, probably the Americans and the Europeans thought this was a nuclear attack on Dnipro, and then it turned out to be a conventional attack. So I think it's important also to note that this type of attack could escalate this conflict into extent that in the near future we could see nuclear exchange. And this is going to be the end of humanity the way we know it. And then there is nowhere safe, guys. You know that, right? Like you're in Eastern Europe or Western Europe or in the Nordic countries or in the Middle East. Like this is going to be very messy, right? So